The Freedom of Information release covers over 1 million documents, detailing experiments and operations performed by the CIA over the last 50 years. Something of a secret Cold War that happened under the noses of the civilian population. Much of what we're about to show you is not only disturbing, but completely unbelievable.
Forest. Area. Risk level 3, presumed. Kept on location in National Park. Quarantined from public access and monitored at all times with 3 supplementary backup systems. Discovery. In the number of disappearances and deaths in the National Park, specifically the area between Monument and became around times higher than the average for any domestic national park, state park, or other nature reserve. Despite spiking and immediately plateauing, the statistical anomaly wasn't deemed significant until the year 2000, when the Anubis AI flagged it as significantly abnormal. This can be blamed on A, the ignorance of the park rangers and National Park Administration of methods to report anomalous incidents or any particular government agency that handles such reports. B, the dereliction of duty of the park rangers and National Park Administration in failing to flag an increased number of disappearances and irregular events to any higher authority. C, the predilection of government officials and other people of public standing to avoid reporting unusual circumstances for fear of ridicule and ostracization. D, the somewhat banal-seeming difference between the disappearance statistics in National Park compared to the next 2 highest national parks in disappearance per visitor ratio, either Grand Canyon National Park in number of deaths and disappearances, or Yosemite for unsolved long-term wilderness disappearances. And E, the lack of manpower available to analyze the statistics during the period due to a watershed moment of increasing numbers of discovered anomalies, which can largely be put up to coincidence and can't be effectively blamed on any particular party or their actions. After the data was flagged, an investigation team was sent to National Park. Within a day, they turned up a large number of personal accounts, witness testimonies, and high-confidence rumors about the forest, all of which would likely preclude a typical explanation. At this point, a public quarantine of the park began under the guise of a contagious disease outbreak, and the area was classified as an anomaly with a presumed risk level of 4. This heightened risk level, though largely exaggerated, allowed the division to quickly manage the cover-up and closure of the park without having to be bogged down by bureaucratic steps or ethical concerns. The classification was made possible by the many crossovers between descriptions of the forest's atypical attributes and well-documented aspects of a Class 3 extra-normal power intrusion perpetrated by the keepers of the terrorist cult. Considering the potential risks, extra precaution was indeed warranted. Research is ongoing, and a final classification cannot yet be made. Research Journal 1-1. Lead researcher Dr. The initial lockdown of the site has taken an extremely long time, which is as expected as it is inconvenient. This is a sizable portion of a national park, after all. Although it isn't a particularly high-traffic area of the park, it is still the better part of acres. Just collecting all the rangers took almost a week, and once that was done, we pieced together just how long this had been going on. We were about to get the equipment out of the van, and suddenly we had to track down every employee who's worked here in the last years. I don't even want to get started on the visitors. Most of them can be left to be disbelieved, but a lot of these people have camera phones. It's no small miracle that the masquerade wasn't broken right away. Anyway, after weeks, we can finally start sending research subjects into the forest. The whole team has been antsy to get started. Not just because of the potential threat of an incursion, which I understand has been exaggerated to grant us more room to breathe, but also scientific curiosity. Even just being in the area, we've already noticed some strange things about the forest. For one, we're picking up some field ratings even as far away as the hotel we'd been staying at. Naturally, the field gets stronger as we get closer to the affected area, but the distance is astonishing. As expected, the strangeness follows along with the destabilization of local. On our way around the exclusion zone, when we were setting up the boundaries, all members of the team sent to the far side, around 5 different cars, took the exact same route, took the same roads, same turns, and ended up in different places. They weren't terribly far off, of course. By our calculations, there could only have been one extra stretch of road thrown in by the anomaly. No split quantum decisions or temporal interference, so it isn't too hazardous, but it's certainly remarkable. As for interlopers or corrupted wildlife, a few of the guys say they saw some shadows in the trees, but we haven't validated anything just yet. More than anything, the forest and the surrounding area is just very, very quiet. Not all the time. It sort of comes and goes. It's honestly a bit chilling. We'll just be standing outside waiting for the word from Control, and then all the crickets and all the birds stop. Sometimes it's the wind, too. It'll go from a normal, pristine slice of nature and suddenly become an uncanny void of movement and sound. It's like a predator has shown up, and even the trees are scared of it. That would fit the mold of course, it is essentially a giant animal. A giant animal in the form of a place. Research log 1-1. 6 research subjects are geotagged and then sent into the affected area, going different directions. After a period of hours, 5 of the research subjects return with the guidance of the research team, while the 6th is unable to be retrieved due to a loss in communication. Of the 6 research subjects, 5 of them left local reality for at least 30 seconds, thus escaping the range of the GPS satellite. 4 out of the 6 subjects report feeling lost or turned around on at least one occasion, and it is suspected that one of the 2 remaining subjects withheld information about his experience in the forest due to pride or fear of being perceived as weak or inept. Readings of the field largely match expected measurements for an incursion, but there is a clear distinction along the border of the affected area, and no expansion has been noted throughout the initial measurement period of 1 week. Incursion is assumed stable for now, though its permanency largely relies on the kind of ritual that initiated the anomaly and whether or not said ritual is still being continued. As with all incursions, the main priority of exploration is to find the ritual center and attempt to close the incursion. Research Journal 1-2. So far the subjects are getting lost like we'd expect them to, but for some reason the wave signature isn't exactly what we'd expect. On top of that, there haven't been any of the hallmarks of an incursion. Corrupted people, time distortion, non-Euclidean positioning, though it's possible that's happening to the forest and we just can't tell. I wonder if it's because this whole area is outside. I understand it has never appeared outside of some man-made structure before. Of course, it was never presumed that it wouldn't or couldn't, but I'm curious if there is actually some underlying reason for that. Maybe because the forest itself is so empty and simple, the can't really take hold here like it normally would. Or maybe it has something to do with the way we make buildings, the layout, potentially. Maybe there's some symbolic weight to having walls or doors, something about how mazes are built rather than grown. I don't know. This is all just conjecture, of course, but it would explain the slight differences from expected measurements. Not much else to do but keep throwing subjects in there anyway, though. Typical or not, this does appear to be an opening into the body of the... and that means the best we can hope to do is close it up. In order to do that, we'll have to send the rats to find the piece of cheese in the middle, so to speak. Research log 1-3. Research subject is released into the forest, outfitted with geotags, audio-visual equipment, a sensor array, and an adjusted telecommunication device calibrated to work within the body of... At 1500 hours, research subject's geotag is measured to leave local reality, and sensor array begins collecting data for irregular space mapping. Subject travels roughly miles over the course of days, entering and leaving local reality periodically. Incursion zones appear to be stable and unshifting. After days, the mapping of the forest is complete, and research subject is able to return to Division custody. Research Journal 1-3. It's looking good and stable so far. If this isn't specific to research subject's experience of the forest, this will demonstrate a dominance of local reality over the incursion's relatively low field, and allow for conclusive mapping of all entrances and exits. Even without more testing, it's fair to say that the stability of the incursion is within acceptable limits for study. Even if it ends up being subjective, it is now extremely likely that the affected area will not continue to spread. It also means that the twist in reality here is unlikely to close on its own, which grants us a fairly unprecedented opportunity to study how position and relative direction are changed within the affected area. Of course, if this does end up being a case, that means we'll be learning that much more about and also how to stop it from having pieces of it pulled to Earth. It still isn't confirmed, but since the communication system is working, it seems pretty likely the Keepers did another ritual here. We have to make our time here count. If we learn even an iota of what makes a life form like the work, it will truly have fantastic implications for the advancement of technology, military and civilian alike. Research Log 1-16. Research subject heads into anomaly position A12. After hours of mapping, they come across a campsite. Campsite appears to be very recently occupied, but no campers can be found in the surrounding areas. There is some evidence of human occupation, but only inside the tent and around the campfire. All other areas of soil or foliage show no signs of recent human presence. Earth is lush at the campsite and surrounding area and is easily depressed by research subject. It is presumed impossible for no footprints to be found between the campfire and the tent if the area was ever truly occupied. Research team leader Dr. suggests that the tent and the campfire may be from local reality, while the surrounding area is part of the research subject is made to stay nearby the campsite to watch for any occupants suddenly appearing, but no one arrives after hours and the mapping continues. Research subject repeatedly asked if they could eat some of the food left cooking on the campfire, and became difficult to manage when this was forbidden. This is considered an act of disobedience, and research subject is terminated after testing due to repeated offenses. Research Log 2-17. Research subject is sent into anomaly position D5. After hours of mapping, comes across a campsite with signs of recent habitation. Tent and accoutrements are completely different from other appearances of a campsite. Food is found cooking, and research subject reports that the food smells just about done. All other metrics match those of previous campsites, including waveforms and the perceived former occupancy of 2 or 3 people. Subject takes a sample of the food, which appears to be some manner of beef stew with potatoes and onions. Subject is able to return to custody with food sample. Food sample is no different than an Earth-typical sample of food from local reality in any metric. Sample is disposed of in accordance with Risk Level 3 protocols, and research subject is kept in quarantine for observation. As of the time of this log, there have been no measurable changes in the subject's behavior, physicality, health, mental health, or wave signature. Research Journal 2-19. So far, this forest is indeed looking to be an incursion. All the waveforms match, the field is what we'd expect, and there's even some evidence that points to the dimensional positionality. That said, we still haven't found any remnants of a keeper ritual, and that's basically the only thing that would definitively certify this anomaly as being related to a summoning. I'm sure it's only a matter of time, but it does seem a bit odd that we haven't found its center, so to speak. Given the size of the affected area and its stability, we should have turned up at least a portion of the original ritual space. I suppose it's possible that some of it occurred underground, or maybe they found a way to complete the ritual using only material components that were already available in the area. If that was the case, it wouldn't be too unreasonable for us to miss the ritual space. Of course, in both of those cases, it would be completely unprecedented for the Keepers. Not even sure it's possible to complete their arcane effect inductions without a clear view. Still, I'd prefer to believe that over the idea that this incursion happened on its own. It would be even more unheard of for them to make a move into the prime material plane on its own accord. Every other time there's been an incursion, it's closed naturally after the ritual was undone. We've always assumed that it doesn't actually want to be summoned here or anywhere else. If we don't find the ritual space, that could mean that isn't the case. Or perhaps that the has changed its behavior in some way. I'm sure I'm getting ahead of myself. It is, after all. Being confusing and difficult to find your way through is in its nature. We probably just haven't found it yet. Still, it's becoming less and less likely as we continue. I'm not sure what the odds of us walking past it for weeks would be, but it would be one hell of a coincidence. Research Journal 2-27.
I'm starting to wonder if this place is part of them at all. It matches most frameworks of incursion exactly, but there are many more unusual elements than we would expect. I'm sure we don't know half of what actually happens within the body, but from what we've seen, it usually tends towards incorrect recreations of surrounding areas, corrupting and extending the lifespan of people and animals that wander into it, or some combination of the two. Of course, there's also the that appear deeper inside, but that would be much further in than we'd expect the forest to go. The forest is only square miles, and the extended space should only be about 100 more. Plus, none of the things we've seen would suggest the presence of... It's more strange than that. Not particularly dangerous. The B team reports that they've run into 17 separate empty campsites with food, which isn't that strange at first glance, but none of them are distorted, and none of them had had any inhabitants even after days of observation. Then there was the incident with the team of subjects we called back today. It's not strange for people to get sick when exposed to a surge in waves, but the way it happened was too... I don't even know what to call it. Precise? What's more, there were no signs of radiation on them when they returned, and no field fluctuations. It was more like an AEI affected them, but even then, that's exactly the kind of effect we've developed ourselves, and it never works exactly like that. It's just strange. Doesn't seem concerning. In fact, none of the unusual elements of the forest have been particularly dangerous. Actually, it might be less worrisome if this doesn't end up being an incursion, since we still haven't found the ritual site. But it is very, very odd. I don't know what to think at this point.
Audio log 2-27.
Haven't we been here before? Technically, no.
What do you mean, technically, no?
Yeah, I'm telling you, this whole place repeats.
I mean, you haven't been here exactly, but it is a repetition of a place you were earlier.
See?
What does that mean?
Whoa.
Oh, I don't feel good. Oh.
Is everything all right? I'm seeing a spike in your heart rate.
Just got dizzy all of a sudden. Oh,
What the hell?
Puke at the same time. Research log 3-15.
Subject continues exploration of anomaly position F-36. This time the trailhead leads immediately to a message center. The structure is made largely of wood and has a small wooden roof. Design and components match other message centers and information kiosks in the national park, including design choices of posted graphics. Most everything posted on the board is exactly as expected for a normal message center, save for a single piece of 8.5 by 11 lined paper with the words "free water" written on it. Paper is nailed to the corkboard of the message center, with the nail itself buried all the way to the head, leaving a portion of the point sticking out of the back. There's also a yellow plastic keg rigged up in a handmade wooden structure, matching the style and materials of the rest. Brand is listed as Igloo. Apart from the brand name, it matches the exact structure and functionality of the Igloo 5-gallon water dispenser. There is also a stack of nondescript styrofoam cups wrapped in thin clear plastic. It appears that a small number of cups have been removed, but there is no visible evidence of another person or entity having been to the area before. Research subject is instructed to dispense some water into the cup. The liquid dispensed from the keg is not water, but rather blood. The blood does not coagulate within the cup even after 2 hours. Subject is recalled along with the cup of blood in its entirety, and both are placed in risk level 3 quarantine.
Research log 3-15-2.
Cup of blood taken from anomaly position F-36 is tested strenuously according to atypical hazardous material protocols. DNA from the sampled blood matches that of a pig, specifically an American landrace pig. Blood remains fresh as long as it's kept within the original styrofoam cup, but will coagulate normally if removed. Research subject is made to drink the blood from the styrofoam cup. No immediate changes in the subject's physicality or mindset. No dramatic changes after full quarantine period of days. However, subject is no longer able to distinguish between blood and water. Both blood and water appear equally viable as a method to quench thirst in the subject, both in the subject's perception and in the subject's metabolism. Testing was done with both human and pig's blood, as well as more blood from anomaly position F-36, and all of the above affect the subject's body no differently than regular water. When given regular tap water, subject claims there's a slight metallic aftertaste. Quarantine of the subject is continued indefinitely to watch for long-term effects and unexpected changes.
Research log 4-9.
Research subject continues placement of motion-activated cameras within anomaly position D12. After hours, subject encounters a campsite with cooking food. Campsite is documented and logged. See supplemental documentation anomalous campsites. No variances are noticed, and subject continues to place cameras until supplies are depleted. After 24 hours, 7 of the 10 cameras have gone offline without noticeable reason, as expected. 2 continue to function for an additional 7 and 6 hours respectively until going offline, again with no noticeable cause. At 0500 hours on 4 days after being placed, the final functioning camera is activated by its built-in motion detector and begins recording video. The captured footage consists of 3 minutes of inactivity, save for the slight shifting of tree branches in the wind. Then a white-tailed deer emerges from the left side of the screen and begins grazing on the grass around 6 feet away from the camera. After a short period, the deer begins walking through the frame, and it can be seen that the deer is missing the posterior half of its body. Studying the footage frame by frame, it's possible to see the innards of the deer, some of which are severed at the midway point of the animal where it's bisected. Despite the obvious issues this would present to the deer's health and its ability to walk normally, the animal doesn't appear to be impeded in any way. It's possible that the deer's second half exists in another dimensional plane and is still attached, though there is no noticeable warping of its form that would suggest that. Research lead Dr. suggests more cameras should be placed, along with a series of salt licks and traps.
Research journal 5-19.
There's something very wrong with this forest. It's not matching any of our expectations. All the measurements still point towards an incursion, but we haven't found a ritual site, and the events that have been happening don't line up with anything we've seen from the Keepers. It's too brutal, too bloody. It still hasn't been dangerous, at least not any more than a normal incursion is, but it isn't right. There's something else going on here, and I don't know what. I'm going to make an information request from Control. Maybe this matches something else we've seen, and it's just not something I've heard of. Sort of bittersweet. No, that isn't the right word. I'm torn between hoping that I'll get some kind of clue as to what I'm looking at, and the dread that whatever it is will be well above my pay grade, so to speak. I've worked for the division for a long time, and I've been lucky enough to specialize in extra-normal spaces. From what I hear around the water cooler, things only get worse as your security clearance gets higher. Regardless, I have to do what I can to find out everything I can, especially after seeing the results of today's exploration. It might be very important to make sure this anomaly stays right where it is. Those people... well, at least one of them matches the profile of a person who went missing in the forest a few years ago. I'm not sure about the other 2. I assume because they were hanging, that must mean they were dead, but that might not actually be the case. Either way, I don't want to hear about that happening to any more civilians.
Audio log 5-19.
Hey, Doc. I'm hearing singing, I think. You picking that up?
Confirmed, we are hearing that too.
Good. I'm not tripping then.
See if you can find where it's coming from.
I was afraid you'd say that.
Hey, Frosty. Could be anything in there.
Jesus Christ.
Did you find the source?
There's 3 people.
We can't see. Can you move your shoulder a little? Oh, are they hanging?
Yeah. Doc, why are they singing?
Research log 6-6.
Research subject continues exploration of anomaly position E-5. Compared to the previous exploration, there are considerably more spider webs present among the lower levels of the forest. Once again, no actual spiders can be found. After repeating the exact path from the previous exploration, research subject does not arrive at the same grove of trees. Instead, there is a large clearing, seemingly circular and nearly 100 square feet in diameter. Grass around the edge of the clearing is pressed down laterally along the circumference of the circle, spiraling inward. Plant life becomes yellowed around feet into the clearing, and only hardened soil is found after feet. At the center of the clearing, there is what appears to be an unusually large land snail, around 1 foot long, with an iron spike through the center of its shell pinning it to the earth. Despite being skewered, the snail appears to be alive, though it also appears to be in considerable distress. After inspecting the snail for a period of minutes, research subject becomes unresponsive. After another minutes, the subject goes into violent convulsions and falls to the ground. Subject seizes for a total of hours, after which subject flatlines and all brain activity halts in an instant. On closer inspection of the footage, the snail is found to have irregular geometry. Rather than a usual spiraling pattern, the snail's shell features a fractal whose shape cannot be supported by local reality. It is presumed that the research subject noticed the irregularity, and that witnessing this was the cause of the subject's death. This conjecture is based largely on expectations of non-Euclidean shapes in human perception, and is backed up by a severe, though non-fatal reaction in the research staff members in charge of studying the footage. It is unknown why IH Protectorate did not activate to censor the footage, and a case study as well as a sample of the footage will be sent to control.
Research log 6-5.
Research subject continues exploration of anomaly position D3. Subject is outfitted with long-range telemetry array and given days of rations in a all-terrain bicycle. After traveling over miles in the period of days, the surrounding terrain does show signs of degradation consistent with an incursion, e.g. trees with irregular branches, unnatural shapes of stones, leaves, and clouds, etc. Alongside the expected degradation, however, are increased instances of unexpected elements as described by lead researcher Dr. See supplemental documentation, Unexpected Elements. Notably, the entrails extended between the trees and the ground, as catalogued in earlier explorations, appear en masse further into the anomaly, with some forming intricate spider web-like designs. Some of these gore webs cover hundreds of square feet, nearly encapsulating groves of trees. After traveling an additional miles, research subject stumbles upon what appears to be either the remnants of a failed ritual or some approximation/recreation of a ritual site. Both participants and ritual components appear shaded and transparent, with the potentially living inducers of the ritual hovering in place, seemingly in distress. After some brief and relatively mild insubordination, the research subject attempts to interact with the ritual participants. All 3 people cannot be interacted with through physical means, as their forms are completely ethereal, and the same is true for the sacrifice or any other component. The resultant conjured space-time infringement that would normally be dangerously radioactive and represent the subjective center of the anomaly is measured as completely inert despite emanating a greenish-gray light. This too is immaterial and unable to be touched or affected. On closer inspection, one of the hovering forms has some features associated with a person of interest within the keepers of the organization. The identities of the other 2 figments cannot be determined through visual confirmation or voice comparison.
Audio log 6-5.
Hey Doc, can they hear me?
No, probably not.
Close the door. Close the door.
Research Journal 6-8.
The case is being shuttered, and Control won't explain why. After waiting for them to reply with new information for weeks, they finally answer after we've already found the ritual site, or what was probably the ritual site. I imagine that, having found evidence that this was indeed an incursion, that we'd be working on how to close it. But the second I send in the report, they're already sending a shutdown team and giving me no answers to any of my questions. Guess it was above my pay grade after all. And I suppose it's some relief I won't have to be the one to figure out how we undo an AE induction we can't even touch. Still, though, I wish I could just get a straight answer. Even just, "You don't want to know," would suffice, but it's absolute silence. The new teams won't say a word. They just show up in the morning and get to work, carrying away the notes and equipment, erecting this fence. Well, whatever. If it's done, it's done, and despite the strangeness, we can be reasonably sure this is a Keeper's issue. The isn't going to spread, and there shouldn't be too much to keep me up at night. Even if the shutdown team looks like they're marching to their graves to hold up the sky, I can't think of any reason having another connection point to the will cause that big of an issue. I bet it was because I compared those entrails to spider webs. I'd heard Control is touchy about spiders, but I never imagined it would be this bad.
2. Forest Quarantine Supervisor. From. At Control. Subject. Request denied.
Request for additional information is denied. This site is to be focused entirely on quarantining the affected area from the public. No one is to be let in, and nothing is to be let out. The site must be monitored at all times to ensure nothing from within the forest can emerge into local reality. The site must be measured daily to ensure that the affected area remains stable. The field generator is to be kept running, and both it and the backup field generator are to be kept in working condition at all times. Any and all dreams experienced by the staff are to be recorded, cataloged, and reported. Anything remotely coincidental that occurs on site or to the staff is to be recorded, cataloged, and reported. There's nothing more you need to know at this time. Any and all measures needed in order to ensure this job is done are authorized. Side note, if any of your staff comes upon an abandoned campsite, it is forbidden to eat the food.
FOI is written, produced, and edited by Kit Curtis. The theme song, A Special Kind of Hell, was produced by Beware the Patternmind and is available wherever good music is played. This month's episode was titled The Forest, and I was disappointed to find myself unable to introduce staircases. If you like this show and want to hear more of it, please put together a team and come free me from the CIA black site in Bermuda. Thank you for listening.